In ancient Greece, doctors performed brain surgery by drilling into people's skulls. Sounds unbelievable, but it's absolutely true. We're talking about thousands of years ago, no anesthesia, no antibiotics, no sterile operating rooms, but there was courage, knowledge, and a strong desire to help. It all started with Hippocrates, the guy we call the father of medicine. You've probably heard of the Hippocratic Oath. Yep, that's him. He lived in the 5th century BCE and completely changed the way people saw illness, at a time when most believed that diseases were punishments from the gods. Hippocrates came along and said, "Nope, there are natural causes for everything." That bold mindset opened a whole new chapter in the history of medicine. Hippocrates had a special interest in head injuries, skull fractures, internal bleeding, loss of consciousness. He observed them closely and wrote everything down. And get this, he said that in some cases, the skull had to be drilled to save the patient's life. That procedure was called trepanation. Imagine a sharp, hand-cranked tool, kind of like a manual drill. With that, they'd carefully make a hole in the skull to relieve pressure on the brain, drain blood, or stop an infection from spreading. But Hippocrates wasn't reckless. He believed the procedure should only be done when absolutely necessary. It wasn't drill and hope for the best. It was calculated, cautious, and surprisingly advanced. After Hippocrates, other geniuses stepped in. One of them was Herophilos, who lived in Alexandria during the 4th century BCE. He was one of the first people to study the nervous system and to say, hey, the brain not, the heart is the center of thought. That was a big deal at the time. He even performed dissections, traced nerves, and studied brain tissue in detail. In a way, he laid the foundation for modern neuroscience. And believe it or not, the surgical tools they used back then were pretty sophisticated. Spatulas, curettes, and, of course, they were made from bronze or iron. Before the operation, patients were sedated with wine or opium, their heads shaved and cleaned, and then the surgeon would get to work. Sometimes, they left the hole open. Other times, they covered it with a thin metal plate like lead. Now, you might be wondering, did any of this actually work? Yet, archaeologists have found ancient skulls with clearly drilled holes, and here's the amazing part. Some of those skulls show signs of healing. That means the patient survived the surgery. These doctors weren't just brave, they were skilled. This wasn't some primitive guesswork. It was early medical science, based on real observation and practice. And maybe, just maybe, the reason modern medicine exists today is because someone, all those centuries ago, dared to take that first step. Dared to open a human skull, not to harm. Imagine a dimly lit room in ancient Greece. A patient lies still. The surgeon holds a bronze tool in his hand, focused, steady. He isn't a god, a warrior, or a philosopher. He's a doctor trying to save a life. That's the real face of ancient Greece. Not just myths and temples, but people who fought to understand the human body and preserve it. And that, if you ask me, is just as heroic as anything carved in stone.